Welcome back to Rocket Talk. This is episode 41. We got a really great show. We're going to be talking about what's in the news. Then Luke's going to give another blast off or blow up. And topic of the week is going to be things that we just want to stay in the past for as we enter the new generation of consoles. Before we dip into that, quick bev check. What's everyone drinking?
Unsurprisingly, I'm drinking my favorite Christmas classic from Starbucks, which is the peppermint mocha with extra peppermint.
With extra peppermint. Actually, I love me some peppermint mocha.
Very good.
Yesterday, I am drinking a Second Self Game Night Hazy IPA. So it's a local brewery here in Atlanta. I haven't had my eye on this one for a little bit, so I went and got some wine for Abby and us for Thanksgiving on Tuesday or Wednesday, one of the days after work. And so then I went and got this as well. So it's just a nice hazy, hoppy IPA flavored beer. It's pretty tasty, and it has a nice little retro game feel to it. So very
that
perfect
sounds
for
tasty.
This podcast.
Dude, can design is everything nowadays. You gotta make sure that eye is drawn to yours out of all of them.
There's a handful of times where I'm buying some beers over others because of the can design.
Exactly. It really is. It's a real thing. I am drinking the Noble Vines Collection 337. It's a cab. I mean, I love cabs. I just can't get into most white wines. I've had some that are pretty good, but just red wine all the way for me.
Go to Aldi and get their Moscato. It's $3. Mm-hmm. Ooh, wonderful, nice, sweet. Basically, that is the point where it's basically alcohol juice.
Yes, and that's when it's dangerous. It's a little bit better than the $2 wine. Not quite as good as the $4 though.
No, Aldi wine is great. It's way better than like that $3 price tag shows.
I've never been to an Aldi's. It seems expensive.
It's actually very cheap.
You're cheap. I'm cheap. All right, guys. What is in the news?
Connor, why don't you go first? I know that you have one about the Xbox.
I actually do. I'm going to go straight into that. So, Phil Spencer, in an interview, said that we might be getting a TV app for streaming Xbox games, and it's tied directly into the xCloud, and that's going to be coming in not even after the 1-year mark of the Xbox Series X being out. I mean, I think it's pretty cool, but in my opinion, it's starting to become even more of a thing. Like, why even get a Series X? And I mean, they're trying to bring people into the ecosystem of gaming using something Microsoft related at all. And it's going to be very similar to an Amazon Fire Stick if it's not just an app that you can download into your TV. Phil Spencer, in an interview, had said modern television sets are basically massive iPads without touch features. And this is going to be, they're going to try to bring that into the gaming sphere.
Yeah, I actually don't think this is a terrible idea. We're already seeing Google and Amazon both try to get it themselves with Stadia and whatever Amazon's one's called, Luna, or I don't know. But it's not a bad idea because this is one of those where they're not going to go after the hardcore gamer that's going to buy the Xbox. Like, they're going to go after the one who would be buying the Xbox as a secondary thing. Someone like myself who has a PS5 or say Johnny. This is a good idea to get people who maybe they're looking at maybe getting an Xbox down the line, but they don't want to pull the trigger just yet, because streaming games is fun and it's nice and all, depending on the game, but there still are, even with all these low latency tech that they work on, there's just something about streaming a game versus playing it physically that you don't get streaming it. So I don't think this is a terrible idea. Like, this is not going to go and kill the Xbox. This is just going to be something that's going to, I think, help get more eyes on the Xbox market, and give Google and Amazon some more competition. Because I mean, if they do this and it says, hey, yeah, if you get the Google equivalent of, the Microsoft equivalent of a Google Chromecast or an Amazon Fire Stick, and you can play Halo, Gears of War, Forza right then and there, like, all you have to do is have a decent internet connection and some sort of USB controller. Awesome. I like this idea. I think it's smart because it's continuing the whole thing about how this generation we keep seeing a different path that all three of them are going on, where Nintendo is just kind of doing their own thing of innovation. with hybrid gaming and Microsoft just kind of doing this games as a service and just giving you any and every way to play their games, where Sony is going the more traditional. Here is your box. Here is the games you're going to play on your box. That is going to be a mix of single player and multiplayer. Enjoy this traditional gaming experience, just more powerful.
Exactly. Johnny, what are your thoughts?
Not different from Luke. I'm gonna kind of piggyback off of what he said. I think it's good that there's a lot of different options that gamers have now. It's 2020, and it's good to see that you don't have to go all in on one purchase or another just to get what you want. And yeah, I think that this is where the future is headed, and it's kind of where I think we'll definitely be for most of the consoles going forward, at least by the next generation. So we'll see. We'll see what happens, but I like this idea.
If you guys can hear a hammer and nail in the background, even for you listeners, my wife and I went to IKEA, got a couple of nightstands, and I was able to get out of constructing them because I've got the podcast.
Nice.
Oh, good.
Actually, my stand that my microphone on is a IKEA nightstand, but this is just a plastic one. I don't think there was any screws that we needed, so hell yeah.
Yeah, I think
nice.
the other day when we were moving in, we found a random screw that I was mere centimeters away from stepping on. Oh my God, that would have been the absolute worst. What else is in the news, guys?
I got one for you. So Chappelle Show recently got added to Netflix and HBO Max, and not even a month later, it is actually off of Netflix due to Dave Chappelle's request. So he shared a video this past week on Tuesday saying, "I'm begging you, if you ever liked me, boycott Chappelle Show. Do not watch it unless they pay me." So he's calling out Comedy Central and their parent company Viacom because they own the licensing rights to the show, and due to the way the licensing contract is set up, Chappelle actually does not make a single cent off of these deals. And Chappelle Show is an iconic sketch comedy show. Like there's so many great moments. I remember, I can't remember which one of the two streaming services, but when Chappelle Show got put on there, one of the two put out a trailer showing it all, and it was showing all of his different iconic characters and lines and just like stuff that people like probably say all the time and don't realize that like a lot of it came from that. Like he's done so many incredibly funny sketches. There's one of them. So Chappelle is a black actor. There's one where he is a blind KKK member, and so he doesn't realize because he's blind that he's actually black, and like that's like one of the things that he goes off of. And there's just a lot of other things. He pushed the edge on a lot of things with his show, and so and so when it came down to whenever this deal was made, he doesn't make the money. So I don't know if that's that. I would say it's more shame on his lawyer that helped negotiate this deal, because if like he's not getting this money for two of the biggest streaming services getting him, then that's kind of shitty on his end. That like the lawyer he had couldn't do this for him. So yeah, because he said in the article from NPR, Chappelle said Comedy Central was able to do so because as a young man he had been snarled into an unfair contract, which allowed the network to continue profiting off of his show, which prevents Chappelle from using its name. So there's just it's a lot of unfortunately bad stuff that happened almost 20 years ago, where he maybe just didn't have the best people around him for this, and then that kind of led to, we see this a lot in sports as well, where a bad contract goes and really sets a player back. So this is definitely a bummer. So it's been a lot of misleading headlines with it, because there's been some that's just like Chappelle Show removed from Netflix at the request of Dave Chappelle, and everyone's just like, but why? So when you actually look into it, you see it's because he's not getting paid. He's not getting paid his money because Viacom sucks and or his lawyer blows. So definitely an interesting one. It's a bummer to see the iconic show leave, but also I am happy for Chappelle that it is leaving, so that way they don't profit off it. What about you guys?
Oh man, it's disgusting the way that the industry treats young talent in comedy, as you had mentioned in sports. And I was listening to the Joe Rogan podcast with Steven Tyler from Aerosmith on it, and people just absolutely screw over young musicians as well. But nobody's safe from it unless they can get a really, really trustworthy lawyer. I'm glad that Netflix was listening. Hopefully these other shows will, or excuse me, these other streaming services will follow suit with it.
Yeah, at first I was gonna say that like there's some element of like I'm not gonna blame Dave Chappelle or anything, but there is some element of how it is legal what has happened because it was agreed upon either by Chappelle himself or his lawyer, but there is some sort of agreed upon element that makes this legally okay. I'm not saying it's morally okay, it certainly isn't, but whether Dave Chappelle knew it or not at the time, he definitely had agreed on this. And I think that reworking some kind of deal is something that should happen in the future, especially now that he's convinced Netflix to pull it down. But I think that this shouldn't come as a surprise, and I just wonder what I'm not sitting in the room with the legal negotiation, so I don't know exactly what the specifics are. But I will say that I think it might be a good idea to have a conversation with whoever's decision it was. Was it Viacom? That isn't paying him anything for his streaming, his shows being on streaming services. So I don't know. I just think that there needs to be some kind of conversation that hasn't happened yet. It should happen soon, or it should have already happened already if it's this big of an issue for him. So I kind of wonder why is that not being discussed?
Yeah, it's like it's legal, but it doesn't make it right.
Exactly.
It's really
well, sure, but
scummy the way they use the law against him to get as much money.
It definitely is. But if neither of them is going to succeed by it not being on Netflix, then I wonder why they haven't had a conversation about it to remedy this. And if they have, why would there be? Why would they agree to why would Dave Chappelle agree to this if he's obviously not okay with it, and so much so that he would ask them to take it off of or ask Netflix to take it down themselves?
Well, we have to remember too, when he agreed to this deal, because this would have been, like I said, 15, 20 years ago when he was a lot younger, because like it mentioned in here, he acknowledged he signed a contract with Comedy Central, but Chappelle said he was 28, broke, and expecting a child. So it's one of those that. Because he said perfectly legal, he said, but is that right? I don't think so either. And that's where the issue more comes with. It's like, yeah, hindsight's 2020, but back in whenever he signed this was probably not the best move on his end because of what ended up happening. And who knows? He probably didn't expect, because no one knew in 2003 to 2006 that Netflix and HBO Max and Hulu and all these would be such juggernaut things, because a lot of them were either just starting out or haven't existed yet.
Yeah, but I guess I'm not so much saying that they should have had he should have had the insight back then. I guess I'm saying between all of the time back when it was signed to today, I wonder why there's been no conversation to remedy this. And it could be because this is the first instance where this has been this big of an issue, and then that conversation will happen going forward. I want to doubt that, because I'm
sure there has been, but you have to remember too, why would Viacom want to restructure a deal that makes them less money?
Well, because I guess because Dave Chappelle has enough pull to do what he did today. So maybe this is what's going to cause a new deal to happen. But definitely, if Viacom was waiting or not expecting this to happen, then that is enough reason for them to want to work out a new deal, or else they're going to look really bad. I mean, they already do, but they're going to look even worse if they decide to stick with the deal that they've got and say, we don't need your show on here. If you're going to want to get paid for it, then, but I don't know. We'll see.
I wonder if the fact that they're on streaming services I wonder if that is where a lot of this controversy comes from, because how long ago did he sign this contract? I mean, I'm sure streaming services. I
can't find the year, but the show was on air from 2003 to 2006, and so he, like the whole story, he walked away from the show from burnout in 2005 before fully finishing the third season, and I want to say that the deal got restructured, but it's something that when he left the show, the show was on Comedy Central, and Comedy Central is probably going to be selling off to other networks for syndication rights, but it wasn't anything that's like, in 2005 they weren't expecting anything like outside of DVD sales. They weren't expecting this thing on the internet where you watch it from your browser, because in 2005, 2006 YouTube was just starting out, and Netflix hadn't been streaming it. If Netflix was around in 2005, which I want to say it was still you pick your movies out online and they mail it to you in DVD form. So the way that they just didn't know what was to come with how, because I'm just guessing. I'm not sure on the numbers, but I'm just guessing that licensing rights for Netflix in 2020 is worth more money than what licensing a production of DVDs would have been in 2006.
Exactly. They're seeing, a loophole now, probably, maybe. Again, like, none of us are lawyers, none of us know the technical jargon, but what I'm thinking is they probably saw that loophole and they went with it in a really scummy way. And Johnny, you had mentioned it earlier, you were hinting towards it, that this is probably now around this time where he's actually starting to see the fallout from it on his end. This is where it's actually starting to hurt him, hence why they haven't had a conversation about it yet. But hopefully, this Netflix thing is going to start a conversation.
Yeah. Either way, I got to say that big props to him for doing this, because you can work out a percentage of what a person should earn, but I think most, if not all of us, should agree that percent should be higher than zero. I think that's important, is that I don't think he really, I can't speak for him, but I don't think he really cares what he's making from it, as long as he's making something, because he put in, obviously he's the star of his own show. It's got his name in the title, but when it comes to businesses, that doesn't matter. It's all the company behind it, the corporation. So as long as he's making something, as I acknowledge that he has some part of this, then that's what's important. So good for him.
Yeah,
for sure. Well, Johnny, you got anything in the news as well then?
Yes. So I'm sure you guys have heard that The Office, one of the biggest, if not the biggest, actually it seems like it is the biggest show on Netflix, is leaving next month at the end of the year. The last day of the year, on Connor's birthday, is going to be the final day for The Office on Netflix.
This is the worst birthday ever.
Well, the good thing is that it's not. It may be leaving Netflix, but it's not going away from streaming.
That's true. Yep, it is. It's going to be going to Peacock, which I'm sure there's just as many subscribers on Peacock as there are on Netflix. So,
also being
Luke does have Peacock.
Mainly because Abby loves The Office, but also because we have Comcast, so we were able to get Peacock early. Peacock launched in April for Xfinity customers, and then July for everyone else. So that was nice because I was able to play around with it. But yeah, this is definitely one that we've known about for a while now, but it's coming.
The time is here.
I mean, how much do you think this is going to hurt Netflix? Because they command, like, I think in 2018, like 52 to 59 billion minutes of streaming. Like, I mean, Netflix, and I know they're raising their prices by like $2, and I think that's leaving. And I don't know, I can't remember off the top of my head, which really sucks for the podcast, but I know that there are other titles leaving too. I mean, really, like, Netflix doesn't seem like it can stay on top at this speed for very long. Do you think that maybe there are going to be other streaming services that might overtake it, like in popularity?
I wouldn't be surprised, because I think the one we're seeing that's catching up is Disney. Disney Plus. Is gonna. I think Disney Plus will be the one that overtakes it, because Disney Plus has just such a good back catalog that they can draw from. While Peacock is not a bad one as well, because Peacock has pretty much everything NBC Universal that isn't still tied to contracts with Netflix and Hulu and Amazon Prime and all that, because they have 30 Rock, Parks and Rec, Brooklyn Nine-Nine, a bunch of NBC Universal films like the Bourne series, a bunch of late night programs. So this has a lot of good stuff too. But man, that Disney Plus lineup is just so strong. Just the Disney side of things, not even counting the Marvel, the Star Wars, the National Geographic, the Pixar. I mean, you have some of the most iconic movies ever made, and then you throw in those huge iconic things. I wouldn't be surprised if, with all the losses that Netflix has had, and the prices going up, and Disney Plus remaining at a decent price, plus all the other stuff you have with, you compare Disney Plus with Hulu and ESPN Plus for like $13 a month. I wouldn't be shocked if in the next year or so we do see Disney overtake Netflix. But Netflix still has a good list here. You know, obviously losing what's been one of the top streaming programs on the service is going to hurt a lot, but it's not like they don't have a lot of good things. I mean, Stranger Things is still a cultural phenomenon when it does launch, and you know, we've seen a bevy of other good shows on there. Think about with Tiger King and Love Is Blind and some of these other shows, like how much
Orange is the New Black.
Orange is the New Black was huge.
Yeah.
Especially as TV has shifted. Like we've seen a huge change in the way TV is watched. There's still a few shows that people watch live, like The Bachelor and Game of Thrones is one of them. But for the most part, for scripted television shows, we don't see too many anymore that people, you know, sit down and watch at, you know, 8 p.m. Eastern on a Tuesday night. It's all on the streaming services that are a lot of the big shows, and more that's going to become the case where, you know, as long as Netflix is making their money back on these shows, which right now they're not, then they can be fine. I think they're going to see a hit just because of when you pair in the price going up and The Office leaving, we're going to see a hit. Especially since Peacock already has 2 tiers. One is free and has over 13,000 hours of programming with ads, or Peacock Premium for $5 a month, which has 20,000 hours of programming. So we don't know which one yet The Office will be under, on which tier. So we'll find that out hopefully in the next few weeks before it leaves, because it leaves in a little over a month. But it is crazy to think that, you know, such a big part of Netflix is now about to be gone.
I don't think the effects of The Office leaving is going to be immediate, but I think it's just going to start a slow decline. It's because, in my opinion, Netflix, and I love Netflix, I'm always going to have it, but Netflix, a lot of their great shows are leaving, but their prices keep skyrocketing. So, people are going to start, you know, going to other streaming services, and a lot of these other streaming services they just have really killer lineups. HBO Max has some just amazing movies, but although one thing I will say is Netflix originals are pretty good. Yeah, in my opinion, I think Netflix originals are pretty great.
So as long as they can figure some sort of way to balance out the budgets for these to make their money back, because like that's where a big issue for Netflix originals is coming in, is that they're losing money on these shows, and that's why some of these solid shows are getting axed early before they can fully reach their potential and stuff like that. But yeah, it gets harder to pick Netflix over some of these services with each passing year, month. Going back to what you said though, how we're probably not going to see the effects of it right away. This kind of goes back to the thing I've said a lot, where I think the Nintendo 64 is where the start of Nintendo's downfall that led to it crashing with the Wii U started, with the blunders they made with the N64. While it still had like so many good things here, the things of the cartridges and pissing off some of their third-party people then eventually led to the GameCube and the Wii and the Wii U, to where they kind of lost their step a little bit. And now, you know, like while the Switch has been a success, they've been fighting an uphill battle for the past 20 years outside of the casual gamer success of the Wii. And that's kind of this where we're going to look back maybe in 20 years or however long streaming services are here and say, okay, The Office leaving isn't what killed Netflix, but that was the first domino that led to Netflix, you know, in 2035 being, nowhere near the juggernaut it once was.
Yeah. I think that when it comes to The Office, since it's on Peacock, I don't think that losing this for Peacock is going to be the hit for Netflix. I don't think that that's going to really make much of a difference in the long run. It is the biggest show, or one of the biggest shows on Netflix, but I think that itself, like Luke and you mentioned, Connor, there's so many other things that have been on Netflix that are so huge that this itself is not going to be large. Though I think that you're right, Luke, that Disney Plus is going to be a competitor, a genuine competitor. I don't know what's going to happen. No, none of us do, but I don't think Peacock is going to be huge. I think Hulu is always going to be kind of like the little brother of Netflix, which is like a solid streaming platform, but not really much of a competitor to Netflix. And then Disney Plus is getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And this is before any Marvel stuff is out yet. They've got The Mandalorian is halfway through its second season right now, which is colossal. Everybody is watching it, Star Wars fans or not, and that is doing so much for Disney Plus. And there's so much planned for Marvel stuff that has not even premiered yet. So it's going to be bigger and bigger and bigger starting next year and the years to follow. With all the Marvel stuff, more Mandalorian, more Star Wars stuff in general outside of The Mandalorian is coming. Probably more direct to Disney Plus live action movies like Mulan. Mulan wasn't exactly a hit, but it does open the door to a lot of new stuff. So I think that while The Office being big is going to be somewhat of a loss for Netflix, I don't think it's really going to affect it that much. Though I do think that Disney Plus is steamrolling the competition. Yeah. There's so many streaming services that Disney Plus is just rolling through, and the only competitors I think it has are Hulu and Netflix, because those three, Disney Plus, Hulu, and Netflix, are like the top dog for who is going to come out on top, and I think Disney Plus has a really good chance.
So I found an article on Fox Business from this past spring. So this is from May. So some of these numbers have changed, especially in this pandemic. But Netflix had a reported user base of 183 million subscribers by the end of March, which is by and large the biggest. So they gained 15 million, almost 16 million paid subscribers the first quarter of 2020. Disney Plus is the second highest, which they hit 50 million announced around the end of April, start of May. So, and then Hulu is roughly 30 million, which is up, especially since they have their partnership with Disney Plus. That helps a lot too. But Hulu reached 30 million, which is up from about 23 in December 2018. HBO Max, since every HBO subscriber gets it, that one, the numbers, it all just kind of varies, because there's 35 million HBO, like I have DirecTV and I pay for HBO, and then HBO Now had 8 million subscribers before it relaunched as HBO Max. So it's one of those that one is also pretty high just because of the juggernaut that HBO still has on cable. But yeah, like you're right. The only other one that has over 100 subscribers is that we know of is Amazon Prime Video. That one has 150 million subscribers, but that one I don't really see. They don't push their stuff as hard. Like they do have quality exclusives, but they're not. They're few and far between compared to what we're seeing on Netflix or on Disney Plus. Like we don't have people with The Boys or Man in the High Castle, trying to the bits as much as we have with Stranger Things or The Mandalorian.
Yeah. And I got to say that it is important to note that a lot of people tend to use Netflix as a streaming service like verb, rather than, even if it's not on Netflix. It's kind of like the Kleenex of the streaming services, which is like Kleenex is a brand, not a tissue. But if you're going to Netflix something on Hulu, that still makes a lot of sense. People are so accustomed to using Netflix that they might say, I'm not going to Hulu it, but they might accidentally say, I'm going to Netflix it, and actually go to Hulu for a show.
Yeah,
so
I think that sounds kind of like an older generation. Like when my dad goes to unplug my Xbox, he's like, can you please move your Nintendo?
Yeah.
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah, it's like Kleenex and Band-Aid and Dumpster and Google, things like that, where the first, or like the one that got the biggest, the first is the one that like replaced the lingo for everything else.
Exactly. Yeah. And I think that from what I've noticed is the Disney Plus seems to be the only exception to that. For some reason, it's like all of these streaming services are Netflix, and yet Disney Plus, even though it's also a streaming service, is definitely its own thing. And it's kind of funny to see that there's some kind of major competitor. You mentioned earlier the hundreds of subscribers to the other ones like Amazon Prime and HBO Max and Peacock even, but it's really interesting to see. Even if there's numbers which do obviously mean a lot, Netflix, Disney Plus is starting to steamroll. So we'll see what happens. But I think in the next few years, we are going to be cutting down on a majority of the streaming services that are just not surviving. So
it's unfortunate, but it's just part of the game when it comes to competition. But competition makes it better for us consumers.
It's not unfortunate. I think that, I think it's great. I'm tired of people thinking, honestly, I'm tired of people thinking they have a chance. Disney Plus had a chance and they know that they had a lot to offer. But when new streaming services come out, I'm like, why? Do you really think I think Crackle was one of them maybe? And then there was a horror streaming service or something like that that came out, and I'm like, stop, like, you're not going to make it, so you're going to be dead in 6 months, just don't even try.
So I think you might be thinking of Shudder. Yeah,
Shudder. Yes.
I think, I would, if I had the money, I'd get Shudder just because I love horror. But yes, I think we should move on to the next thing. And Luke, I'm going to let you take it over from here. We've got another blast off or blow up for Black Ops Cold War. Luke?
Yeah. So the newest Call of Duty has now been out for a couple weeks. Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War. So I planned this being my first PlayStation 5 game for a reason, because I know that even in a Call of Duty that I don't fully like, I still get enough out of it that it makes the purchase worth it for me, and then it also was one that is an easy way to get something that'll show off the next gen tech. And so this is definitely one of the harder blast off or blow ups out of all these that we've had that I've done, just because in a lot of ways this game is really good, and then in a lot of ways this game should have been delayed a few weeks, few months, just because of like some issues I have with it. So I'm not done with the campaign yet. I'm about 3 or 4 missions in, so I can't fully speak on that yet. I do know that people have enjoyed it for the most part. We went back to campaign last year after skipping it with Black Ops 4 in 2018, and so while I haven't played as much of it, I have enjoyed what I've been playing so far. It takes a lot of the same elements of the more grounded but like out there approach Black Ops 1 had, with the branching storylines Black Ops 2 had. There's in the second or third mission, there's a part where you can go and you have to meet up with one of your crewmates in East Berlin, or you can also do a quick side quest of going and either rescuing or killing an informant with a lady you just met with. And so you can go and you can rescue and or kill this guy, and that will open up branching paths later on in the story. And so stuff like that is awesome to see, because it makes it so there's reason to play through the Call of Duty campaign again, because some of these campaigns, once you play through it, it's just a typical popcorn flick style action V game, and it's just like, I could care less about this unless there's just a couple parts I want to relive. So I can't fully say on that one, but I've enjoyed it so far. So the biggest thing people buy these games, though, is the multiplayer and the zombies. And so the multiplayer in this game, it's been fun so far, but something just kind of feels off, is the easiest way I can describe it. So it's built off a lot of the same mechanics of last year's game of Call of Duty Modern Warfare, where it's more of a traditional, you pick a gun and you can pick up to 5 attachments, and you pick your 3 perks. You pick your primary grenade and your lethal and your tactical equipment, and and then a field upgrade, just like a little bonus like gizmo you get, like one that will give you extra ammo, one that will jam the radar, and all that. And then it adds an extra element with wild cards that give you some extra doohickeys. But for the hit detection, the connection has had some issues in this game at the start, which has kind of been a thing for Treyarch games for a bit. But like this one, it feels very inconsistent. Where when I'm playing, I can't tell the difference. Like why I'm losing these gunfights, if it's my fault or it's the connection's fault. And it's hard to win gunfights at times because I'll do everything right. I'll shoot them first, I'll be accurate, I'll hit my shots, and then they'll be able to turn around and beam me. And then other times I will then just like instantly die. And so it's been very inconsistent, which has been kind of frustrating. But I think the biggest issue that the game is having as a whole is it doesn't feel fully fleshed out yet because of, I think, a couple different reasons cause that. I think the biggest is the pandemic. So we're going to see a lot of these games that are yearly releases or ones that are pushed out the door for the new consoles, online primary games, that they're not in a good state in the first couple months of its life cycle. And I mean, we see this in non-pandemic use as well, but this one especially, there are only 8 multiplayer maps in the game that you play under typical 6v6 game mode. So that's compared to 16, 12, 13. A lot of the more recent Call of Duties have had more maps. So there's not a whole lot of maps, and also only 2 maps are new that weren't in the beta. So I played the beta a couple months ago, and there's only 2 new maps I'm playing on. So having that is kind of frustrating, knowing that like I'm barely playing anything different from the beta. It feels the same way. So the pandemic, and then the other ones that doesn't help is this actually wasn't supposed to be Treyarch's Call of Duty. So for those who don't know, with Call of Duty, what they've been doing for the last almost decade is they rotate between 3 developers, so they get a 3-year cycle to make a game. So Infinity Ward will make a game, and then Sledgehammer will make one, in Treyarch. And so they all have their own spin on things, and so that way they can have it where they get time to develop it, flesh it out, and put the games out. But apparently Sledgehammer's game was so bad that they forced them out and put Treyarch back in. So Treyarch, in the middle of finishing up support of Black Ops 4, had to drop what they were doing and basically work on this new game. So they had to build the multiplayer from the ground up with a year less time than they usually have. And then you throw in the fact that they worked from home for, a good 9 months as well. So I think that's why it's frustrating, but that has been an issue because the connection issues and the lack of features has really been something that has had me more and more playing zombies. Like while I still played a lot of zombies, was planning on playing a lot of zombies beforehand, I've seen myself playing that even more than multiplayer, just because of how frustrating it is to play on the typical online. But then getting to zombies is great. This I think, is the best the zombies has launched with since probably Black Ops 1. Just because as great as Black Ops 3 Zombies was, and as good as Black Ops 2 became at the end, this one, it did a good job of going back to basics, but still innovating. And so I think that this is...
That's high praise.
Because like the issue the Zombies games have had really since Black Ops 2 is they put more focus on the Easter egg storyline stuff than the actual gameplay of the map itself. Like a lot of these maps, you have to do half of the Easter egg just before you can get the map opened in a good enough state that you can then go run around and do whatever. You had to do all this, where like this game, you just got to turn power on and get Juggernaut and get Pack-a-Punch opened, and then you can just like train zombies for a ton of time. Not focused on the Easter egg, not focused on getting the free version of the Wonder Weapon, and getting to the high rounds where some of these other games are a lot harder. So I've had a ton of fun with it. Actually, yesterday, the day before we recorded this podcast, I went and I completed the main story Easter egg mission for the game on solo, which a lot of tries to get to it, but it was fun to do because that's the first Easter egg I've done since Black Ops 1. Because, like I said, how convoluted and just unnecessarily big that they were. So it was nice to see them kind of go back to the basics. But they did make some changes to it as well. So I've been enjoying that. So like I said at the start of it, it's kind of hard to fully give it a blast off or a blow up. I want to say for the most part it should get a blast off, but maybe it's one of those that it got rained out at the missile launch day, and so it's one of those that they got to wait until it dries before they can launch it again.
Fair enough.
Like talk to me in January or February, and I think that like this could be once they get some of these bugs and just issues tweaked a little bit, this can be an easy blast off.
Okay.
It's still good to hear like some sort of update, like a timely update regarding Call of Duty. And I know that you are really big in Call of Duty, but when you were doing one of your KZLX shifts several years ago, not several, that makes us sound a lot older.
Well, that was like almost 3 years ago.
We are old. We're not young, strapping young lads. We weren't swear, but I remember you talking to me in between sets that you were like, you love COD, but you're starting to get like kind of tired of it, or it is starting to like Call of Duty starting to be a lot less interesting.
Yeah, these last couple, I think, the Call of Duty series is probably in its best overall state it's ever been. Honestly, Modern Warfare really helped revitalize the series, which it really needed, because yeah, I've had the same issue. For the last few years, where it was right around March, April, I'm like, okay, I'm not buying the next Call of Duty. Like, unless there's something that really wows me, I'm not doing it. And then they would do something that would kind of just drag me back in. But then it would be the same thing every year, where with Modern Warfare, while there were issues I had with that as well, it was, okay, I'm enjoying this enough. And then especially after Warzone got added, the free-to-play Battle Royale, it was like, okay, you know, if the new systems weren't coming out, maybe I wouldn't have got Black Ops Cold War day one. Maybe I would have waited and got it Christmas time. But it's like, I'll get probably the next Call of Duty, especially if the zombie mode looks better than what it was in Black Ops 4. And so like this was like one of the first years where like I was going in there not like dreading, like, okay, let me get this, and then in 2 months I'm going to hate it, like I had with basically every Call of Duty on the PlayStation 4 Xbox One generation.
Yeah, well, I'm just glad that you were able to get Call of Duty in your hands. It seems that they're doing pretty well, although they'd have some bugs to fix. But we'll check back in with you. One last one I will say before I do move on, though. The one of the other things I didn't touch on is with the PS5, one of the features of the system is the adaptive triggers. And this game, not counting Astro's Playroom, this game has one of the best uses of it, because what they do is the back triggers will have different tension depending on which gun you use. So if you're using that's so cool.
So if you're using something
that's rad.
Like an MP5 SMG, it's going to have less resistance than if you're using a big old M60, you know, chugging along light machine gun, you know, a big old gun that you know makes your movement speed down so much more. Like each one feels different, and the aiming, the L2 bumper, the one to aim with versus the R2 to fire, they have different levels of tension as well. So like that's been a ton of fun to play with different guns, because some of them you have to pull down a lot harder just to shoot or to aim down sights compared to other guns. So
it really works out your finger muscles.
Exactly. It's fun for the immersion. Like I know a lot of people will turn it off. I've kept it on just because now I've gotten used to it. But yeah, that's been a ton of fun. You know, it looks prettier on the PS5 because it can do ray tracing shadows, and it's in 4K. If I had a monitor that could do 120 frames per second, I could do that as well. But is one of the better uses of the PS5 tech outside of Astro's Playroom, out of all the games currently out right now.
Yeah, I think that's a good example of where technology is, that it can give you something that's surprising in the moment, but it's so advanced, but it makes perfect sense for it to be there. And I hope to see more of things like that. I loved when the Switch first came out and it showed you like, depending on like it on the screen, there's a cup of ice, and it can like when you move the Joy-Con around, you can feel the ice cube in your controller. I thought that was a really cool invention, or some sort of innovation for it. And what you're explaining with the pressure on the controls for the guns, that's another good inclusion for what video games should have.
Yeah, the only other one I can think of that's doing something like this right now is NBA 2K. The more fatigued your player gets, the tension on the triggers will change as well because like they're more tired. But yeah,
that just makes it more realistic and makes
exactly.
the
so that was
gaming more
I
immersive.
wanted before we moved on. So
let's move on into the topic of the week, guys. And as I mentioned before, there's a new generation console out, and we kind of want to just touch on things that we have experienced in the past with basically all other generations combined that really suck, and we want to keep in the past. This is in regards to tropes, mechanics, and we just want to see this go. And so there's lots of things that I had listed for Xbox, and I know both of you guys have mentioned things for PlayStation. I think, Johnny, before we were recording, you said you mentioned things mostly in terms of gaming in general, so at least we can touch on all spheres of the gaming experience.
Yeah, because I mean, like, I think it's good to do all gaming in general because there are things that aren't exclusive to Xbox or Sony or Nintendo that are problems in the gaming sphere, and so it's good to get rid of those things regardless. Even if it's one of those that maybe Sony and Microsoft haven't done in a while, but Nintendo's doing it, or none of them done it in a while, and we don't want it to come back. I think that's perfectly fine to do it broad.
And some of the things on my list, while all of them are about gaming, because that's what we're talking about, some of the things on my list also translate into TV and movies as well. Just general tropes that are issues and problematic within media in general. But yeah, I'll explain it as we go on, and I'll tell you, the list of things. I have 10 that I've made, so. Whoever wants to start can start.
Here, I'll start us off because I have probably one of the biggest ones in general. Like we've talked about this a lot on it, but I really want with this new generation. I know it's not going to happen, but I just want the console wars to just finally die.
Of course,
like we've talked about this. It was mentioned in the mini on the Xbox Series X, Series S review with Joel and Michael. Go listen to that as well. But both, like with what Nintendo, Sony, and Microsoft are all doing, they're all going in different paths in the gaming sphere, and it's a good time to be a gamer. It's not like what it was in the 90s where you're a Sega kid or you're a Nintendo kid, or in the early 2000s, are you a Nintendo kid, a Sony kid, or a Microsoft kid? You're just a gamer. And with how accessible everything is now, and how we have so much cross-platform play, all these games as a service, and things like that, it's just better to leave this whole concept of Xbox better, PC better, PlayStation better, Nintendo better in the trash, because there are things that all three and kind of PC, all four, do better than one another. Like, that's just how it is, because the systems aren't a carbon copy. Like the Xbox internally is more powerful than the PS5 and the Nintendo Switch, but like that doesn't mean that those systems are inferior. I mean, actually, we're running into an issue right now where some PS5 games are performing better despite the slightly weaker hardware. But like a Xbox Series X having more teraflops doesn't mean that my PlayStation game experience is significantly worse at the 10.3 or whatever it is. It just means
it's unnoticeable. It's stupid to even bring up.
It just means that there are things the Xbox Series X is going to do better than what my PS5 would be able to do, and vice versa. There are some games that if I launch them on my PS5, they're going to launch a little quicker than on the Xbox, and vice versa, and that's awesome. Cool. Like, I'm glad that like load times have diminished so much that like if I have to wait 10 seconds for a game instead of 8 seconds, I mean, sure, that adds up over time, but like I'm still just glad that it stuff's better. So it's so much of a thing that like it just gets annoying, because while I have stuck to Sony for all my consoles as my primary like gaming system, I'm like that like the bigger reason why I still got a PS5 over an Xbox is because since I have that pass with the Sony, I have all my stuff that I want to start over with my trophies, with my friends list. It's easier just to get a upgrade to the PS5, keep all my stuff instead of starting over from scratch. But also, if I just would have decided to get an Xbox instead, like what Michael Cripe did, I would still know I would have had a great time with this new system if I would have been able to get one. And down the line, if I do like eventually get one, I know I'm going to have a great time with that, with the quick resume features and Game Pass and some of the games that aren't on PlayStation. So that's the easiest thing is just say, kill off the console wars. That should stay in the 90s where it belongs.
Exactly. Dog, it's so dumb that you even have to bring that up, and it's so dumb that people are still doing it, because I'll still see every single tweet, regardless if it's PlayStation or Xbox, each and every single tweet, regardless of the content, someone says Xbox better, PlayStation better. Yeah, and it's like, come on, the hardware is getting so good. Or there's the Switch, which is god tier. It's so dumb, because all the technology is getting so good that everyone is basically able to instantaneously put in their game and play. And I don't know, it's just the little flavors that, Sony will add into their technology, Microsoft will add into theirs, that just makes it, an Xbox or PlayStation. It doesn't necessarily make the gaming superior over the other console. It makes it different. It's a different, great experience. Exactly. So dumb. Dude, I wanted to bring up the night and day difference of, I guess, strategy that Microsoft was going with the Xbox One and the Xbox Series X. As soon as Phil Spencer took over, it became a lot more consumer friendly. But before, dude, Xbox One had absolutely... It had this one console for your entertainment experience, all-in-one entertainment system. However, there was no backwards compatibility, and I thought that was as dumb as it could possibly be. And luckily, that seems to be, Xbox Series X has a lot of backwards compatibility, and I hope it stays that way. But the way that they were trying to market themselves is this all-in-one encompassing entertainment system, but you weren't able to enjoy any of the games that you had previous. I thought that was so stupid. And I know PlayStation was having a lack of backwards compatibility that changed. Now almost all titles of on PS4 are going to be played on PS5. It just seems dumb that you wouldn't want people to enjoy the games that you yourself have published for us in the past and just continue that on in the future. I guess there might be a strategy there that if you make things backwards compatible, people are going to play those games that they've missed out in the past rather than buying new games. But I just don't think that's not fully
the one though. Like, luckily, as great as backwards compatibility is, it has been a fraction of the user base on the Xbox One. Maybe this will go up more in the new generation. But yeah, I think the blunders that Microsoft made with the Xbox One, trying to market it more as your all-in-one system instead of just a gaming piece, is what turned people off. On top of all the restrictions of always online, which actually, fun fact, the Xbox Series X has some of those features back in now that they're on good graces with people. That gets ignored. But with always online and the no used games and a lot of these things that they went back on, it was one of those that it was just the poor marketing is what killed them, and that's why the Switch even passed the Xbox One, just because people were so turned off by everything. But yeah, I'm glad that they have turned their heart away and moved more towards gaming first. Obviously there's still a focus on entertainment stuff because streaming, like we just spent, a 10-15 minute discussion on Netflix, and if this is the end of Netflix with The Office leaving and all that. So like streaming services is huge, and being able to stream off of your PlayStation, your Xbox, if it's Hulu doing off your Switch, is still a big deal, even if the focus is gaming first. Sorry.
One thing, and then I'll let you go, Johnny. The one thing I also wanted to add onto that, and hopefully, like with the acquisition of all these companies that Microsoft has been buying up, including Bethesda recently, I hope that Xbox has more exclusives. The gaming with Microsoft is about as convenient as can possibly be, because you can game on your phone, you can game on your PC, you can game on your Xbox. In the future, apparently, you're going to be able to game on your TV even without a console. And that's great. That really is. But exclusive titles are important. People with this, gaming being convenient, people are going to play in either they're going to play with their friends or they're going to play by themselves. You need to have exclusive titles that are great for single player gaming. PlayStation is so far ahead of the game. All their exclusives are just mind-bogglingly amazing. And hopefully if I have the money, and it's it's only if I can find the time and the money, I would probably buy a PlayStation 5 because I want God of War, I want The Last of Us. If Microsoft is trying to push gaming, then they need to have the exclusive titles to go along with it.
Yeah,
and that's
just even Nintendo has
tied in with the backwards compatibility.
Because even Nintendo has that with the exclusives. Obviously like Mario, and like think about like we still see Mario Kart 8 Deluxe is still one of the best-selling games every year, and that's a port of a game that came out in 2014. So like the fact that because it's such a quality kart racer that people go out and buy a Switch for Mario Kart 8. They buy a Switch for Smash, Mario Odyssey, Breath of the Wild, Animal Crossing. Like they have these killer apps that people are buying their systems for, and outside of Halo and Gears, Microsoft doesn't fully have that right now. Like they have some other exclusives with Fable and Forza and all that, but you don't see people going out and buying their Xbox for those games like you see with Nintendo, with Mario, or with Sony and The Last of Us and Uncharted and God of War and Spider-Man.
I just, that all of these things, the things that I've mentioned, seem to already have they seem to be fixed. They seem to be worked out. And I just hope that we can keep these things in the past. Again, Phil Spencer has been great for Xbox. And I keep name dropping him for whatever reason. But because he really did seem to come in and try to fix Xbox, but mistakes. Yeah. I really hope that the fixes that are coming with the Series X are here to stay. Sorry, Johnny, I had interrupted you. What were you saying?
Well, I was actually going to move on to my first point of 10.
That reminds me, I need to move on to my points.
So my first point is games that have only 3 save files. That's something that needs to end. I don't know why this is the case. It is certainly not because it can hold no more than 3. Sonic Heroes on the GameCube could hold 99 files. So I'm not sure why even games on the Switch have 3 files. At the very least, things.
You need 99.
No, you did. No, you didn't need 99. But having more than 3 is certainly like there's a middle ground. We can meet between 3 and 99. I think that having 3 only is just kind of like it's arbitrary. It's pointless. It's just kind of like because it's the thing that people do, it's a thing that gamers do or game companies make. It's like, 3 files because that's what has always been the case. But it's like, why? You can hold more than 3 files worth of stuff. Like have 5 or have 10. Like don't have just 3. There's not really a lot to expand on this one. But yeah, that's one thing that is pointless and in 2020 and on does not need to be around anymore.
Yeah, but how many times? Like I get there's some games that need it, but like with a lot of stuff, like I'm trying to think of some of my games I play that only have 3, 4, 5 save files that I don't really see myself needing it. Like especially in more modern games where with profiles, then you can get more and more save files on top of that. But like Crash Team Racing, you can have 4 save files on that. I think I have 3 on mine. I did one. I did on hard mode. I did one on medium, and then I did one on classic, where you pick one character and stay with them the whole time. And that I think that's plenty. Like I don't know. I'll never use the 4th one because or if I use the 4th one and then I want to play the game again, I'll just delete one of the other 2 that I don't care. Like I'll delete my hard mode one or I'll delete my my classic mode one because this one I don't fully see why it's necessarily needed.
Well, let me say that for you a 26-year-old man do not need more than 3. But kids growing up in families with multiple siblings, if you have like I was a family of 3 siblings, and each of us wanted our own file. And then sometimes if we would bring a friend over for whatever the game was, we would maybe want to start a new file, and you would have to erase one of them to do that.
Yeah,
and when there's only 3
with profiles, so like right now on let's say on your Switch with your profile for Mario 64, your Johnny profile on Mario 64 can have your save files, where the Connor profile is a different save file. I was talking about his brother Connor, not you, Connor.
Right.
That one, he'd be like your brother Connor, and then Connor Raby could have a third profile, and so you wouldn't run into that issue. I get where you're coming from the issue of back when you used one memory card or one system memory, but nowadays with like, since the profiles usually aren't linked together, Animal Crossing is one of the only ones where it's like you can't have like separate islands.
Well, I mean, but Breath of the Wild is another game where it's only got one file, and yeah, it's linked to another profile. But let's say that you're a family where the parents limit one file. They call it the kids file because they have the kids locked on it. It's not like, Johnny, Luke, and Connor. It's kids for all of them. So in that case, which a lot of parents do, yes, they could make a new profile, but parents sometimes, when it comes to video games, hot take, they're incompetent. So they might make one file for a game where each of them have one file, one system file, 3 game files within the game. And then in Breath of the Wild, if I want to ever keep what I have, but I also want to start over, keep all of my progress because I'm collecting all 900 Korok seeds, but then I also want to start a new game because I want to re-experience the game adventure itself, I don't want to have to make a brand new profile. And as awesome as Breath of the Wild is in a lot of instances, this is, limiting just one file. And Breath of the Wild is a bigger game, so I do understand it. If they wanted to have only 3 files, I would get that, but they only have one. And maybe it's because it's so colossal that it only has one option, but at the same time, I don't know, like I don't know. It seems like it's arbitrarily limiting, and there are you've made a lot of good examples of as games have gone on, there's reasons as to why that might be, but at the same time, it shouldn't. I think that we should have more than 3, and that's my opinion.
Well,
I guess
no one asked your opinion on this opinionated podcast.
Exactly.
Johnny.
No, I just think that in a lot of cases it's just it's arbitrary, and even though a lot of games are going away from it, it should be something that was long gone a while ago. So
well, hopefully they're all listening to this podcast and
they are
fucking fix these mistakes. What else needs to stay in the past, guys?
So another one that I can think of is. Actually, it's kind of funny because as we're talking about backwards compatibility and all that, I think one that I hope we see, we're already off to a bad start with this, but I hope that we slow down a little bit with the remasters. The remakes are a different story, I think, but with the constant just slight remaster stuff where like that floods every game getting released. Like I love it when games if Sonic Adventure 2 gets re-released on the Switch, I will buy it because I bought it on, I bought on multiple systems. If I buy an Xbox, that'll be one of the first things I'm buying is that game again, even though I had it on the Dreamcast, GameCube, PlayStation, and PC.
Weird flex, but okay.
Just because I got a flex and own every copy of on a system I have. But I love it, and there's a ton of games that I do buy for it, and there are exceptions to stuff where games like say Mario 3D All Stars, where we haven't seen sunshine in forever, but we're about to get GTA 5 re-released again on the second, the second re-release on a new console, so it'll be the 3rd console generation that this game will be on. Almost 8 years after it originally came out by the time the PS5 version comes out. It's just like, okay, I get it. GTA 5 is one of the best selling games of all time, but do we really need to keep re-releasing the same games every couple years instead of making new ones. Like, and like I said, there are exceptions to it, and I think remakes are a different story, because like Final Fantasy VII Remake is a complete rework from the ground up of the PlayStation 1 game. Like, it's nothing like it's nothing like the original, outside of like obviously the main characters and like the base plot, but like the gameplay is so much different. Or games like Crash Team Racing, where it was a 20-year-old game and they've rebuilt it up. So I want that to really kind of slow down, I would say. Not really go away completely.
Yeah.
But if it can slow down, that'll make me
I think, I mean, when it comes to the Crash trilogy or the Spyro trilogy, I think those are really good examples of what games should be like if they're remade from the ground up. Don't get me wrong, I love Super Mario 3D All-Stars. I think it was really fun and nostalgic, but it's like, I hate to make this comparison because I was really excited about it and I really enjoyed the game, but it was like getting a pair of socks for Christmas. You know, like, yes, you wanted it. Yes, it's going to be good to have, but like, it's not anything that's going to make you, you know, it's nothing new. It's nothing really that impressive. And Nintendo literally did the bare minimum to make this game available for you, and it's only limited to a small amount of time. So, Super Mario All-Stars, 3D All-Stars, as great as it is, as great and iconic as the individual games themselves are, it's a pair of socks, is really what it is.
Well, it's just the whole joke, like the joke of can it run Doom? Like we know you're gonna get Doom on every console, like. Every Nintendo console, in some way, shape, or form, you're going to be able to play the original Super Mario Brothers, and every game system you can play Sonic 1 and 2 on. And, like, there's so many games that you can play on just about every system, and like that's great and all because it gives you a chance to play these games again. But also, when it's a game that came out, like an average game that came out in 2014, and now it's getting a HD remaster with with 4K textures and the DLC and it's just like or even half-assed like Nintendo did. It's just like, okay, cool. I'm glad I can play these games on these systems, but why is this your main focus instead of making new games or instead of remake completely?
Well, I mean, it's got Nintendo on it, so people are going to buy it no matter what.
That's just more of an issue as a whole, I think, because like I said, there's so many right now. Most of the new games you're buying on your PS5 or your Xbox Series X that aren't these cross-generation, like the Call of Duty game just came out and it's on both. There's a bunch of games that Devil May Cry remastered and stuff like that, where it's just like it runs better and that's great, but like this game just came out 2 years ago. Why are we just re-releasing a remaster right now? And that's like that's a selling point for a new console.
I think some of that also falls on us as consumers. If we tell them this is shit that you just want money from, like if we don't buy it, then they won't make it. But a lot of people are just going to mindlessly buy a game with minimal updates just because it's got Nintendo slap to it, or because it's got their favorite character in it, like it's got like Spider-Man in it.
Every Call of Duty for the last like 12 years, so yeah.
I mean, yeah, kind of, sort of. So it's kind of on us as consumers as well as it is on developers.
For sure.
Yeah.
Johnny, what's one of the other points you have?
Okay, so the next one I have is one-hit kills. I think that they are stupid, and that's my professional opinion, is that they're stupid. I like spikes, pits, big lasers, fireballs, whatever it is. One-hit kills are dumb, and they don't really serve any purpose other than to delay you from whatever goal you're trying to get to. I will say that when it comes to differentiating the one-hit kills to the very, very massively overpowered enemies, there's a difference there. Because when you get one-hit KO'd, your response is, oh, okay, that kills me in one shot, got it. But when you get, like, 80 to 90% of your health from 100% down to like a quarter or less, you're like, oh my God, this guy is a threat. This is I need to get out of here. I need to rethink my strategy. Like, I am not prepared for this. There's a difference in your reaction. Like, even though a one-hit kill is stronger than a very dangerous kill, it does not leave the desired effect that a massively overpowered enemy would. And I think that's kind of the difference is that like I think of Legend of Zelda. I've been replaying Breath of the Wild recently. When you fall into a pit, you're not technically dead. You just kind of respawn at the last place you were at. But if you go across a Lionel or a Guardian, they will knock your health. One hit could knock your health down from 20 hearts down to like 5 or 6, and to see that reaction, or to have the reaction of like, oh my God, I need to get out of here, that's instilling something in the gamer. Whereas like falling into a pit and dying is like, oh, okay, I messed up. Like, yes, it killed me, but I don't care, So I think there's a difference there. I don't think that one hit kills really serve a purpose. I think that we need to be done with them. What do you guys think?
I think it adds a little bit of realism to it, because if you have a massive centaur stabbing you in the throat with a spear, you're gonna die.
Yeah, I think it depends on the context of things, because it's one of those where having a one-hit death spot just to have one, it's like, this is annoying. Like, if there was a game that had one of those that I can't think of off the top of my head, where it's just like, you just die no matter what, and like there's so many other ways where you live, and it's just, why? So I think a big point depends on the game, because realistic ones, or like if it's a game that has a leveling system and more of a RPG elements, obviously a more powerful enemy is gonna one shot you because you're weak, where you need to go and build your armor, build your level up. Where I want to reword what my main point, which is 2-hit kills are scarier than 1-hit kills. I guess I'll make that stance, is that like, if you see something knock you down to like from 100 to like 20%, 25%, that's scarier when you know it's going to kill you in one more hit. That's scarier than a 1-hit kill, because you're dead, you don't care, you're going to respawn. So yeah, that's what I meant by that, is a 2-hit kill scarier than a 1-hit kill.
I think, I definitely see what you're saying, especially with a massive game like Breath of the Wild. You travel all that way, you die in one hit. It is annoying. But to get rid of it completely, like in general, for all games would be... That is asking a lot, because, I mean, how else are they supposed to tell you, get better, before you beat this massive centaur with electric arrows? It's then you are technically asking them to program the centaur to be different levels of strength every single time you meet them.
So what I'm saying though is that 1-hit kills are not, I'm not talking about like from an enemy. I'm not talking about like a swing of the sword or whatever because your defense is too low. I'm talking about indefensible, no matter what your armor is, whatever, health is, whatever, this will kill you in one hit. A spike fall, a ceiling coming down and crushing you, a boulder rolling you over and killing you, a pit, whatever it is. So I'm not talking about like a big tough enemy. I'm talking about like obstacles or whatever that are gonna kill you in one hit, because you don't learn anything from that. It's like, this is in place only to kill you, and then you're like, oh, okay, that's an easy obstacle that I now know how to get around because I've died, which is not very realistic, because it's like, if you want to make it realistic, you should go against something that is very dangerous and could 2-hit kill you. But if you're going against an obstacle where the ceiling is coming down, you just know to either be faster, avoid it altogether, whatever, and then on the second time, it's like, oh, okay, I go this way instead of this way. That's what I meant. Not necessarily enemies, but obstacles.
I guess I never really would have thought about that, but I personally, I don't really see... I mean, they are annoying, but to get rid of them entirely, I don't think I would agree with you. But I mean, then again, we're not on this podcast to all agree with each other at all points.
Johnny,
all
your opinions are bad.
No, all of like the one-hit kills that I'm thinking of, I think of every game from like the N64 era all up the way to the Switch, and all like games from every single system I can think of have something like this, where it's just like, nope, you're dead, start over. And sometimes the starting over isn't like that much of a hit, but it's like two things. If the one hit kill sets you back really far, that's going to piss a lot of gamers off.
Yes.
And if the one hit kill doesn't send you back far at all, what was the point? So, like,
I think I see where you're coming from. I still don't agree, but I do understand why you have your opinion. Thank God for automatic saving, which is becoming more of a thing. But yeah, I don't think we necessarily need to do away with all of them. However, I know for a fact next time I pop in Breath of the Wild and I get one hit killed by a Lionel, I'm gonna be pissed off and I'm gonna be like, why don't we do away with these?
I've got enough armor now that I can fight him, and they hit like a quarter of a heart now every time they hit me, and I feel really good.
Hard though. I'm glad that you're in that put, but they're so fucking hard. I wanted to bring this up, and Luke, I'm gonna ask you to explain this one because you were explaining it to me earlier. I was reading a list of the worst parts of the Xbox One, because I don't personally own one. My brother, he owns ours, but he let me have one for an entire semester in college. Region locking. Apparently people are really upset with region locking, and I was wondering if you could explain what that is and why it pisses people off.
So region locking, basically what it is this is a thing that has, for the most part, gone away in a lot of the consoles, is when you buy a system, depending on where the system is made for, it has a region lock on it. So North America. So if you went to your local Walmart and you bought, just for making it easier, I'm gonna use the original PlayStation. If you went to your local Walmart in 1997 and you bought an original PlayStation for, I can't remember how much they were, but you bought that there in Minneapolis or Nebraska or whatever, that can only play PlayStation 1 games that were released in the North American region. So if you went and you traveled to Japan and you saw, oh cool, they have Crash Bandicoot 3 here. I don't have Crash Bandicoot 3 back at home. I'm going to buy it here in Japan, bring it with me. You wouldn't be able to play it because it is programmed for the Japanese PlayStation 1. Or if you were in England and you wanted to buy a game there in the PAL region. So a lot of this was definitely a bigger thing in previous generations. We've seen it go away. The Switch is one that is region free. So when Johnny studied abroad in South Korea, when the Switch came out, if he would have bought his Switch in South Korea, he could have done that, came home and bought his American games and been just fine. Where in generations like the Wii U or the PlayStation 2 or stuff like that, he would have had to have bought a separate Switch to play his North America games compared to any games he would have bought in South Korea. So it's more of one where it's another one where it's just nice that we've gone away from it, just because like it wasn't really necessary as the world gets smaller and smaller and consoles get more and more powerful, because a lot of times it was because the systems had some extra features or different limitations dependent on the way the system is set up. Because TVs in Europe, for example, the ratio and the hertz were different, so games ran a little bit different over in Europe on games like Sonic 1 or Crash Bandicoot 3 and stuff like that. That now, as things get more uniform, a region lock thing is just a dumb waste of space.
Okay, yeah, I can see why that pisses people off. But you were saying it seems to be going by the wayside.
Yeah, like I guess I mentioned the Switch doesn't have it. I want to say the PlayStation Vita didn't have it. I want to say both the new systems don't have it either. I could be wrong on that one, but it is one that if you are going and you're studying abroad or you're visiting a different country, you can now go and buy these games for a system you have in America and still be able to play it. You know, it'll be weird if you bought a game, a Switch game in a different country, because then you'll have one random game that doesn't have an ESRB rating, has whatever that country's rating board has. So it would look weird next to your other games. But also, you can then import, exclusive versions of games that may have, extra features or different box art or stuff like that. And that extra money you're paying for, you don't have to go out and spend even more money for a system.
All right. Thank you for explaining that. That sucks. But I'm glad that it seems to be going by the wayside.
Yeah.
I only have like 2 more things on this list. What else do you guys have?
One of mine is one that we are starting to see kind of go away, but which is making me happy. But I really want the idea of shitty microtransaction behaviors go by the wayside.
Fuck yeah.
So that luckily, honestly, we can thank games like Fortnite for fixing a lot of this, but I'm glad that a lot of the pay to win, the loot boxes and all that have pretty much disappeared in modern gaming. There still are a few examples of it in games like NBA 2K with My Team and Ultimate Team on FIFA and Madden. But going back to Call of Duty, a good example of this that's changed is in Black Ops 4. I could go and I could play Black Ops. I could have thousands of hours in Black Ops 4, and because of the randomness of the loot boxes, I could have never touched half the weapons that are only in supply drops in the game. I could have played like I said, I could be max level, have every gun leveled up, every camo unlocked. I could jump in a game and go 50 and 1 every single game, and there are 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 guns that I never own because they're locked away in a supply drop that you have a 1.2% chance of getting in it, and so you either have to get lucky or drop hundreds of dollars to have better chances to get it. And so luckily games like Fortnite having just a system, okay, here, your $6 will get you this skin. And it's in a lot better place because now, sure, are some of these cosmetic stuff way too overpriced? Of course. But now someone can go spend $20 and get a skin on Modern Warfare that makes them look like Jigsaw from Saw and use that. And sure, that costs them like $20 to get it, but they paid $20 to get it. They didn't pay, $20 for a chance to get it. So I'm glad that we have eliminated that a little bit, but just with how scummy it can be, we're seeing a lot of things like that. We're now heading more upfront with it. If you go play games on the iPhone, it gives you a better % chance of what you get. Like in Mario Kart Tour, you can
my God, disgusting about it.
You can know, okay, I have a 1% chance of getting 8-bit Mario, and so they do that, and and at least that one they have tweaked a little bit so it is a little bit better to get your things where you can not pay a dime and get stuff at a decent pace. Obviously, it's better to pay the money for them to get it, but it's not like what it was in games like some of the older Call of Duties or Star Wars Battlefront before they tweaked it, where it was either, hey, pay $100 in loot boxes to get Darth Vader, or unlock him in 120 hours of multiplayer playtime. It's in a better spot, but it's still. I just want the thing to, keep microtransactions aren't the problem. It's shitty microtransaction practices.
I think I think it's good to note that it's okay to have them as long as what's there is not the only way to get them, and it's up to the player whether they want to pay the money or play the game to get what they want. I think of Super Mario Run. It came out a few years ago. The game was free, but only for the first few 2 or 3 levels was free, and then after that, if you wanted to play it, you spent $5 to get the whole game. I think that was great because it was definitely worth $5. But then you come across Mario Kart Tour, and it is shameless with the or at least during its initial release, it was shameless with the microtransactions. So that was that. I don't play a lot of games that have microtransactions. So seeing that was just kind of like this is not where Nintendo needs to go, and all of video games really need to go. So if you were given the option of not like, oh, there's a chance that you can get this, or even that you can buy it, you can pay a bigger amount to guarantee that you get it, also give the option to do some kind of in-game accomplishment to get whatever costume or whatever it is, or character. So yeah, sure, I hear what you're saying.
Yeah, because going back to Call of Duty, that was one on the issue with some of the games. Black Ops 3 and 4 were the example where you just couldn't get those if you didn't get lucky, where a couple of the other games like Infinite Warfare, okay, you didn't get in the supply drop, well, go get 10 kills with your shotgun in a match 15 times, and then this gun's yours, and like stuff like that, because it's like it's a little bit of a grind, but it's nothing astronomically hard that you can do. That you can, if you could spend a couple of days working for it and you get it, instead of spending thousands of dollars to maybe get it.
Yeah, definitely.
That's just disgusting. Yeah, that needs to. Thankfully, it's been going by the wayside, but that is it's disgusting that it was ever even forced onto consumers. And it's a lot of these people, they're very predatory with people's loyalty towards such and such developer. And they're like, oh, it's got Nintendo attached to it, so we can charge them out the wazoo before they even realize what's happening. And that's just, it's just disgusting. It leaves a bad taste in the mouth. Johnny, what's another thing that you think is just terrible that needs to go?
Okay, so the third thing on my list is rescue missions. And I don't think that in-game like side missions or whatever is really a problem. I think that when the game itself, the overall point, the purpose, the adventure starting mission is saving somebody. Mario saving Peach is the epitome of this concept. And I think over time they've done it slightly less over time, but it is something that's not even like saving the girlfriend. It's even Banjo-Kazooie. He's going to save his sister. And I'm just tired. It's something that's like so simple, so contrived that like, I know that like the world coming to an end or the big bad trying to take over the world is also a trope, but I would much rather have mass chaos than the hero only going after the villain because it's personal. Like, why does it have to be personal? Can't the hero just be somebody that wants to be a hero? It shouldn't have to be personal. You know what I mean? So
it's a very cliche thing to do, and even the other examples you mentioned as well, like it gets annoying. Oh, here's another game that I'm doing. Like it's a reskin of doing the same things. Like I agree that is an issue when it's go save this because big bad.
It makes me think like if Mario, like if Bowser came down and kidnapped a toad, like if Bowser kidnapped one toad, would Mario care? Like, would Mario do anything about that? Like, if Peach was safe, would he really, would he do anything? So, because there's no evidence that he would. I mean, yeah, Mario's painted out to be the hero, but, he's always saving Peach. So, obviously, she means a lot to him. But, if Bowser's trying to get his attention, shouldn't he do everything except kidnap Peach? Because then maybe he can get away with what he's doing. If Bowser kidnaps every single toad in the game and not Peach, wouldn't he then get away with what he did? Because Mario's just I don't care. It's not my job. It's not my kingdom. It's not my business. I'm going to stay out of it. So, there shouldn't have to be a personal motivation for a hero to do it. If they're supposed to be the hero, it shouldn't have to be personal. That's kind of my thing.
That is, yeah, it's overused, overdone, and just kind of boring now, and it does make sense. If games are trying to go with more realism, then they should definitely go all in, or not. So
yeah, well, I love,
we're all pretty much on the same page there.
Yeah, I love Banjo. And even though he goes after saving his sister, he's known that the witch, they talk about the witch's lair, above his head, above his house, before she gets kidnapped. So he's known that she's lived there presumably his entire life, but he doesn't try to do anything about the witch being there until his sister gets kidnapped. So it's kind of yeah, I live next to this evil, ugly hag that's probably going to commit a lot of crimes, but I'm staying out of it until my sister gets kidnapped. So...
Yeah, kind of a shitty hero. Yeah. One thing I wanted to bring up is hard drives that can't be replaced. I think it's stupid that you can't replace those. That was more of an Xbox One thing. I don't know if that was same with the PlayStation 4, but that was...
could do it. It was a bigger pain in the butt. Yeah, that is definitely true. Because what's funny is Xbox made it so easy for the Xbox 360, and then there's like, nah, you just gotta buy a new Xbox with a bigger hard drive at this point. And it is. You can do it on the PS4. You just had to take apart a couple internals. It wasn't that difficult of a thing. Same with the PS3. But yeah, it's technically you can't replace the hard drives on the new consoles, but currently with the Xbox Series X, there are expansions out there, and eventually there'll be ones for the PS5 as well, and then also we'll get bigger sizes down the line too. But yeah, I am glad that is something that has disappeared.
The next thing I have is helpless NPCs. I think that like when it comes to adventure games, there's so many times when you have to do everything. And I think it would be so, like, I know it's part of the game that you are the hero, you're supposed to be the one in charge, but I think that one or two things should happen that would make me happier is like if an NPC comes up to you and they're like, I need help doing this, can you please help me? You have two choices. You can say, yes, I will take these side of enemies if you go like lock the gates or whatever it is. They give you the choice. They're like, do you want to go stop the enemies or do you want to lock the gates? I'm just making some example. And then you choose. Well, that's one thing. Another could be if the NPC says, I'm going to lock the gates. I'm going to go over here and fend off these enemies if you can go do this. And even if you don't get a choice, at least they're doing something. And sometimes this happens in games, but a lot of times they're like, hey, we have to go over here, we have to lock the gates, then we have to go over here and destroy the enemies, and then we have to go make sure that the enemy respawner is destroyed so no more enemies come out. And they're like, you can do all that, right? And it's like, can you help me, please? Like, can you do something? Just one thing? Like, please? So, like, I think even if you're not given an option, even if you don't get a choice, it would be nice to see NPCs, if it's designed, you know, the gamers designed the NPC to do something you'll never have to do even maybe, but at least they're helping you in some way to move the story forward. And it's just like, it's just help out, please.
Yeah, it's no longer fun. It really is just a hassle, not only for your character but for you. Like if you have to move on to the next thing, but you can't do it unless you do like 100 side quests for this character. It is just it's like it actually does take away from the experience.
There's a side quest in Breath of the Wild where you have to help a mother find her children. It's like, go look for them yourself. Like, you've got 5 kids and you want me to find all 5 of them? I'm sure like 3 of them are easy to find, but 2 of them are, you have to go through these individual sub-side quests. It's like,
divide and conquer. Like, it's not a hard concept. I get that, man. Yeah, I think I'm right there with you.
Yeah, there's one of my favorite jokes is in Modern Warfare 2. There's the Ramirez defend Burger Town, and your like commander tells you to do all these things, and you're probably Ramirez, and it's like, Ramirez do this, Ramirez do that, and so like there was a meme of Ramirez do everything, and so it would be like Ramirez, and then it'd be some sort of like random thing to do, because it was like that was a problem that Call of Duty games have had, where it's just like, you're this super soldier, and then the rest, then you're with all these brain dead like NPCs. So
exactly,
you're taking down a whole like secret government while your NPCs are like running into blindly just like getting shot left and right. Just like, come on, guys.
And I think it would even help if they come back with some dialogue like after the fact, if they're like, we took out like 200 guys back there, and even if you didn't see it happen, if they at least say they did it and it's seemingly true, it's not like a lie or anything, that's all I need. Is like, I don't need them to actually help me make the game easier. I want them to like just do something off screen at the very least, you know.
It's
for
really
story
funny,
purposes.
Like Breath of the Wild, you'll go and visit a town. You'll save some villager from being attacked by some goblin or whatever, or moblin, I suppose. And then you'll discover a couple other towns. You'll go back to that town or something and just to see what's up. And that same exact NPC is being attacked by those same moblins. And it's like, you can't, like, I don't mind if I have to save another NPC, but the fact that I'm saving the exact same NPC is just kind of, it leaves a bad taste in the mouth.
Yeah. Yeah. I can say that, like, at the very least, they're trying, you know, like they suck at fighting, but at least they're not running away. Like they're trying, they're beating him down with a tree branch, but it's like, you know, A for effort, I guess, you know.
A stands for effort.
Yeah.
Actually, the last thing on my list here, and then you guys can just take over from there with everything you have, is mandatory game installation. Xbox One required players to fully install every title that they used on the console, partially due to Blu-ray technology used for those generation games. And that is, especially if you're an impatient person, that was frustrating. I hope that's something
in general,
we can...
playing, it's a lot harder to play a game day one on the new consoles, and that's not something that's fully going away, because there also has day one patches where by the time the game comes out, they fix a bunch of the last second bugs they found. So there's, unfortunately, that's one that's not fully able to go away. Just because of the way the current gaming sphere is. It is super annoying because 15 years ago, you go buy a game on your PS2, you throw it in your PS2, and you're playing. Where now you buy a game on your Xbox Series X, and you might not be playing it, depending on how your internet is, for 30, 40 minutes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's definitely frustrating. It's not the end of the world, but it is just, you know, you want to play your new game.
I think I agree with you to a point. It depends on how big the game is and like how much the install is. An example that I think that is annoying is the Spyro remake, the Spyro Trilogy remake. So due to the time crunch of them trying to get it out on time, they didn't have Spyro 1 and 2. They didn't have Spyro 2 and 3 fully done by the time the disc was pressed. So the discs are typically pressed, you know, a few weeks, a couple months before the game releases, so that way it can hit store shelves in time. And so you had to update the game and download the files of 2 and 3. Now, if you go buy a newer print of it, it will have those games already installed, so you just have to download like the update that fixes the bugs. But like stuff like that's annoying, where it's like someone who doesn't have good enough internet buy Spyro Reignited Trilogy, and they can only play Spyro 1 if they don't have internet at that time. They have to download the rest of the game, and it's like the game only takes 15 gigs, if that, of the 50 gigabyte disc. So it's like, why?
Yeah.
But yeah, I do see your issue. It is annoying, more just because we're just impatient gamers, but.
Yes, and I had mentioned on the Xbox podcast that it's going to be funny to see how impatient our kids are going to be with their consoles and our grandkids as technology gets better and faster and faster and faster.
So number 5 for me is grinding. It's pretty simple. We don't need it. You should be able to progress in a way that if you defeat everything along the way, it should be natural that it should be at the same difficulty level throughout the whole game, or at least a little bit harder as you go on.
Yeah, grinding padding gets so annoying. One I can think of is like Sonic Unleashed, where you have to collect certain sun and moon medals. And so it's like, sure, like you naturally get some of those just playing the levels, but then having to go back and replay levels just to pad out the game to make it last just a little bit longer. It's just like, come on, man. There's like, let me play the game at my pace. And if I want to go back and get all the collectibles later, awesome. Like when you lock things behind like collectible limits, it gets super annoying.
Yes, definitely. The next thing is, this is more from anybody who's played a lot of platformers, but boring first worlds being grass or nature themed. I've talked about it before. It's like just for the first time, just make a first level that's water based or fire based or spooky. Like, don't tutorial does not need to be grass. It doesn't. There's no reason that it needs to be grass themed. It's just like, just do something else.
I think it's more like I totally get where you're coming from. Like, if you're like not a new gamer, if you've been around for the block, like you should know what's coming later. But you know, like you got to set a basis somewhere, and the home world, the hub world is just where you do it. The first level is where you set a basis. Like, you don't want to throw in people to a spooky level and then have them think, oh, this is the way it's going to be. Especially if it's like a new title from an indie developer. You don't want people to like have that mindset, and then all of a sudden the next thing they get is water level, and then a grass level, and then a lava or something like that. You don't want. Yeah, I get where you're coming from, but realistically, like in practice, that might get a little confusing.
I mean, maybe things like spooky levels may not be the best one for first, but fire is perfectly fine. Fire is always towards the end, and it makes no sense to me. It doesn't have to. Like, if the first level you go into is fire based, it's like, okay, that's great. Like, it's starting with some edge. I like it.
But you also wouldn't want people to start learning the controls of the game with edge, because then, you know, like people start getting hurt or dying as they're learning the controls, and then they'll get pissed off. Like, what do you want from me? Like, I'm still learning.
They have more just like the theme can just be a little different. And the first level in Wrath of Cortex, in Crash Bandicoot Wrath of Cortex, is an ice level, and so it's like,
there you go.
And you know, while the levels in the game are kind of like basic and bland, at least they like did something different there.
Yeah,
and it felt like they were trying something different. Or like, and then you have examples like where other games like Sonic Forces, it's Green Hill but sandy. It's like, oh, it's like, I mean, I can go on and on about.
You know, Wrath of Cortex was a brilliant example, because now that I'm thinking of that was a great first level, and if that's what they want to do, that's totally fine.
Yeah,
you get all your first level tropes of it being fairly easy, not a whole lot of difficult enemies, but yeah, instead of being in grass or forest or like the same first level, like how so many Sonic games start with some sort of Green Hill clone outside of Adventure 2. Like, it's either Green Hill or it's beach level in every Sonic game, and then you know, if they did something just a little different, like at least in Sonic 3's case, it's a like lush level Angel Island, and then Eggman's like, LOL, let's set it on fire. So like at least we have seen some try to do it, but yeah, that is another just like kind of just cliched thing in platformers, where it's every first level is always the same style. It's just like, okay, well, let's change things up a little bit.
The next few, so the next one is groups of characters, like in a team, having one female character. Like, there's always the girl in the group, and like,
or the black character, the Asian character,
like even
the token minority.
Yes.
Yeah, like, and I think of games like Sonic Heroes, which inspired or created the team dynamic that went forward for a lot of Sonic games going forward. There's Team Rose, which has two girls in the team, but they're also represented in a way that's kind of like, this is the girl team. Like, it's not even like it's such a trope that the only exception is ironically furthering the issue. You know, like, Rouge the Bat is the only girl in her team, in Team Dark, and it's good that she's not a character that's like romantically interested in anybody on her team, but she's still interested in Knuckles, or it hints at that or whatever, and she's very sexualized for a kid's character, but at all. And
I think by anyone's standards, she's very sexualized.
Yeah,
and if you think she's sexualized, you got to go look at her secret costume you get when you get all of her A ranks. It's even more risque than her.
That's disgusting. Where can I find it?
And it actually leads it. This one and my next point actually tie in together pretty well. So the first one is groups with just one female character, or there's the quote-unquote girl team, which has more than one because it's full of girls. And the second point is women in video games have limited personality types. They're either the love interest, overly sexualized, or the mom. And you think of like Sonic again is a good example of this. There's not really any mom characters.
There is Vanilla Rabbit.
Yes, I was gonna say except for her, but she's not super prevalent. But I think of Breath of the Wild again, and the two champions, Mipha and Urbosa, as powerful as they are, Mipha is interested in Link romantically, and it goes into detail in the DLC about how Mipha always had a crush on Link growing up. And then Urbosa is like is a mother figure to Zelda. So even though they're like two very powerful characters, they still fall into this classic trope that needs to just be done with.
A lot of reason these tropes are classic is because it's really easy for writing teams. You have to have extreme stereotypes. That way characters are more distinguishable in their personalities for kids, and I think for anyone really. Like you want to have the jock, you want to have the nerd, or hello, my name is Amy Rose and my personality is girl. It's easy for writing teams, and unfortunately I don't think we're ever going to see that go away. And I hope we can one day, but I just realistically, unfortunately, it's not going to happen.
I don't think there's necessarily a problem with the fact that these tropes exist, because even the other two champions, Daruk and Rivali, they have, like, Daruk is kind of like the jolly giant, and then Rivali is kind of a dick, and so like those are character traits that exist in media. I just think for women in particular, there's a lot fewer fewer options.
Well, so in it's a thing for movies, but you can adapt it for TV shows and video games. There's a thing called the Bechdel test, where like there's a lot of movies that don't hit this, and it's super easy to hit. All you have to do is two named female characters talk about something in the during the during the duration, not about a man. And it's just like there are so many times where that doesn't get hit in things like in superhero movies, in action film. Like there's some think about like how many times like Sonic Heroes is one that would technically pass it because of all the talking Amy and Cream do about non-Sonic but
Amy doesn't do a lot of that, but
true but that's one of the few Sonic games where that happens, and and there are a bevy of female Sonic characters in the video games, but also I mean the Sonic, there's an issue just with the whole franchise as a whole, but there are multiple female characters that can interact and talk about something other than male characters, but it just doesn't happen. Like I'm thinking 06, I'm pretty sure most of Amy and Elisa's interactions are about Sonic.
Yeah, and even though Rouge is a good departure from talking about a man, her existence as being the sexualized character is itself a problem. Yeah.
Well, that opens up a whole different can of worms, because it's now like she's supposed to dress how she wants, and what if she wants to dress like that? But the way she dresses is still, for the.
But I can almost guarantee you that Rouge was created by a man, so.
I mean, but then. Yeah, but she can still be. Then it goes to another can of worms. It's like, yeah, but what if like female gamers own her? What if they take her existence as something for themselves?
There's some that do look like her, but I mean, it is one you see with male characters as well, but especially with female characters, of just the unrealistic representation of it, whether they are over sexualized or they have they're unobtainable body shapes, stuff like that, like all these very anime-esque, just big old breasts, very very small waist, picture perfect face, all these things that are such a unrealistic standard. And then it's the same thing you have with every other media, where then it can affect young male and young females, where they think they have to be like that, and that's the obtainable beauty standard, and that's just not something that should be good. Obviously there's going to be people that have like skinny girls that have big boobs. Like that is a thing that happens. But it's like when you're making all your characters look like that, when that's not how all characters look like. Like it's funny because Ellie in The Last of Us is a very normal looking girl. Like she looks like a 14-year-old. Like
yeah.
And then in part 2, she looks like a normal 19-year-old. She like, especially like one that's living in a like zombie horror like type of environment. She's not this over sexualized character, and it works because she looks like someone that we would have seen just walking around campus in college.
Yeah.
It shocks me it took them so long to start doing that, because now we are seeing more plus size models on runways or in like department stores as mannequins, and it's just like, you're having such positive feedback from this. Why did it take you so goddamn long to do this?
Because men are stupid.
Well, and I think that like the other point of it is like when there's like when you put people together and there's the groups of just the one female character, or you have a team of all women. It's either one amongst all men or all of them are women. It's like there's always one team that's all women, and it's like, why can't there be 3 different teams like on Sonic Heroes or another kind of game, Borderlands? I think all 3 games have 4 characters. All 3 games have 1 woman in all 3. I'm pretty sure that's how it is. Why can't one game have 2 women, or even 3, or even all women? But if it had all women, then it'd be Ghostbusters, and everyone would think that it's like that Vine, the feminists are taking over. But
Ghostbusters was actually legitimately terrible.
It was, but not.
But
because
I get your.
It wasn't bad because it was an all-female cast.
Yeah.
This was bad because it was not a well-made movie.
Yeah, but my point is, like, games like Sonic, games like Sonic, could have teams of it could have more than one team of all women, or more teams that have 2 or 3 women in the team. Like, it doesn't have to just be like even Team Rose, which growing. And I guess I'm not trying to make this all about Sonic. It's just a good example of this. But even teams like Sonic, Team Rose in Sonic Heroes was the quote unquote girl team, and leading up to today, the most recent game with that team is Team Sonic Racing, and Team Rose. Amy is the only girl in that team, and she's with Big and Chow, which is a robot. So it's like, even today,
the Chow, there's
yes,
robot, and then
yes, but he's the one that speaks for all of them. Omo Chow is. But then you have Blaze, who is, I think, the best, the least trope-filled female character of all Sonic is Blaze. But then you have Rouge, who's the only girl on the team. Blaze, the only girl on the team. Amy is the only girl on the team, and that's it. Like 3 girls out of 15 characters. Anyway, that's kind of like, you underutilize women, and then when you do utilize them, they're pigeonholed into the same personality type we've seen a million times.
In a space that also, 1, half of the world's population is female, and then 2, a large, like, people like, oh, only a fraction of us play video games. No, a lot of, like, I don't have the exact numbers of it, but it's not one of those where it's 3 out of 15 girls.
Exactly. That's what I was going to say. It's higher than 3 out of 15. So that like that is and
more and more every single day.
Yeah, exactly. And at the very least, it's like, people say that, if it's a 4-person team, which is pretty often outside of Sonic, of course, if it's a 4-person team, it's always 1 woman, like Left 4 Dead 1 and Left 4 Dead 2. If you had 2 women and 2 men, that would be like, okay, we're kind of pushing the boundaries here. But then if you had 3 women and 1 man, it's like, there's nothing wrong with that. We've had 3 men and 1 woman for like all of time. So why can't we start doing that with the other way around, since there's 50% women and 50% men anyway. Anyway,
I was also going to throw out that if there's like a 1 female character, sometimes when they'll do the opposite, and she's cold and unfeeling, kind of like early like male warrior characters, where she's incapable of feeling emotion other than rage.
I think that's not very used trope. That's not something that happens very often. So I would applaud.
That's just like the other alternative.
Yeah. Well, that's something that I think that would be, as long as there's a reason for that, it's something I think that I would applaud. I think that's something that would be better to see in more media, because a lot of the times, if there's 3 men and 1 woman,
dimension either way.
It is, but it's at least it's going to be something that you haven't seen as often. And if there's 3 men and 1 woman, then 9 times out of 10, that 1 woman is going to have a relationship with one of those 3 men, guaranteed. I think as well as any 3 white men can talk about the exclusion of not just women, but also any different races in video games. I think if we want to expand on this, we should definitely bring in some female gamers like Corey, for example, or even non-gamers, but women in general. People who have been women their whole lives, like Emily and Abby, perhaps.
I mean,
but
those 2 do play video games as well. But yes, you are right.
Exactly. There's only so far our opinion goes. But moving on to the next one is removing LGBT element after translation. We can talk about how there's not enough to begin with, but there's in particular after translating the game from Japanese typically to English is where a lot of stuff gets somehow it got lost in translation. No, it didn't. It got cut from translation. And that is not only disrespectful, but it is unacceptable because regardless of what the content is, whether it's about LGBT or not, you are not supposed. It is unethical to not translate something the way it's meant to be portrayed. You are supposed to say things how it is supposed to be said. Politics aside, it is not a good practice to not translate something how it's supposed to be said. And I think that when you put your opinions in there by happening to omit certain elements from a game that, I didn't know that this character was supposed to be gay. Who knew? It's like, yeah, you knew. You just chose to release it to North America with your take on it. Some examples of this are Birdo from Nintendo being gender fluid. I guess there's supposed to be some kind of she's not a woman. She's got a bow, but she's not a woman. Vivian from Paper Mario and the Thousand Year Door is supposed to be male to female transgender, and it specifically calls some characters call Vivian a he, and she always refers to herself as she because they're being mean to her. They're not accepting her transition in the Thousand Year Door. In America, in the English version, everything like that is cut. There is no reference to her being a male before. It is full. Everyone refers to her as she. They bully her in other ways, but she is never referred to as transgender in any way. And I think that's something they're like, I guess we messed up the translation or something. Nintendo of America is like, I don't know what happened there. I'm not really sure. It's like, you do know. You did it. You're the one that cut this. And the last thing is CJ and Flick in Animal Crossing being roommates, partners, business partners who live together and call each other partner, but they're fully they're just platonic business partners. That's it. There's nothing romantic there. That was also cut from translation. It's just these are specifically LGBT examples, but I think really anything that gets cut from translation, I'm not going to say lost because that seems like it was an accident. Anything that gets cut from translation is unethical and a really bad practice. So what are your guys' thoughts?
Same as the previous examples. Just we need more representation and be unapologetic about it.
It representation. You have to. It's a hard line to hit because I think another example of one that has caused issues, even though I feel like it was meant in the right ways, is Lev in The Last of Us Part 2. Lev is a character who is transitioning from male to female, and so he gets dead named a few times in the game, and so that obviously for transgender people that they brought up how they didn't like that, and the point that Naughty Dog I think was trying to make was saying like Lev is leaving his religious cultist group because of how they didn't accept him for who he was, and that's a fine line where it's probably the people who wrote them dead naming him were probably non-transgender. Who knows that they? Because I know there are LGBT members of the Naughty Dog crew, so maybe someone who is trans. The actor who played Lev is a trans male. So like at least you have that. But yeah, when you have situations, you have to be careful when you do put LGBT tropes in, but also like concept or like characters and concepts. But also, yeah, don't change it just to get rid of it, to whitewash it, to just because you don't want to like offend people. Like there's gay people, there's trans people. That's just how life is. They're people, and they deserve representation, just like females do, just like minorities, and all that.
Yeah. Yeah, I think like when it comes to this, it's like translation. I think translation errors are a problem, and omitting LGBT characters are a problem. But when you put them together, it's also another kind of, even though it's conjoined, it's a separate issue altogether, which is like you're putting politics into something that's not meant to be political, which is like your job is just to translate. That's it. You're not supposed to have your opinions on it, and yet you're purposely omitting stuff. So it's kind of like, you know, if the story wasn't supposed to be a certain way, then you changing the translation of it is not actually doing your job. You're taking a step forward and putting in a step of what you want your job to be, or how much power you think you have, and you're changing everything altogether when that wasn't your job to begin with. So that's kind of it's unethical, and it's a very big issue. And then my last one is a lot less big. It's a group of characters, typically bad guys when they all have one character trait. This is the fat one. This is the sexy girl. This is the psychotic one who's always got his tongue out. This is the baby. This is the genius. You know, this is the mad scientist. You know what I mean?
Sounds like you're describing the whatever the bad guys are in Sonic Lost World, Zavok and Zaz and all the other one-dimensional boring ass characters.
That's a good example. Yeah. That's a perfect example. Like, yeah, maybe there's somebody that's the old guy or the fat guy or the genius or the girl, you know, like these are, you know, that's another thing that maybe we don't have to go too deep into, because we're you know, it's all of my list is taking us over, so I apologize. But yeah, that's one that's something that, you know, if you're going to make a character, make them have something.
It just like a huge reason why most Sonic fans don't like Zavok and Zaz and the rest of the Deadly Six is it just because they're so one dimensional,
stale.
Because Zavok is the brute bad, and Zaz is the crazy one, and then I don't even there's the old wise one. There's the one whose personality is fat. There's the one whose personality is like emo, and the person.
And there's one girl.
Yeah, no, there's two.
Oh, there are. Oh, okay.
But like, yeah, they're so one dimensional. It's just like, oh, you have 2 of 6, but they're so like half-assed character. Like the whole Deadly Six thing. It's why like people make mods of the game where all references of the Deadly Six are taken out.
That's funny.
But yeah, I mean, so a lot of good stuff in this. Obviously, you know, more John is more just a problem with like inside the game. For more of Connor's and I's were more broad of like the technical side of things as well. But I mean, these are all a lot of big things I think that should be eliminated or at least toned down a lot too.
Yeah, for sure.
And when these companies listen to us, at least they'll know. At least these will have been brought to the light.
They'll have us to thank.
Because they've never heard these criticisms before.
Never.
Yeah, well, I mean, we shouldn't have to be saying some of these in 2020. You know?
Yeah, you'd think.
Don't make characters one-dimensional. Don't put your opinions into translations.
But you now I have to write more, and that's hard.
Yeah, exactly.
People are literally like their body images are being deformed in their heads and stuff, and they're getting all these sorts of inferiority complexes and these like eating disorders because you are lazy and you're a piece of dog shit. Sorry, actually no, I'm not sorry. I'm not sorry about that at all. Not even kind of. Yeah, so a lot of those we could have our own separate podcasts for that, but and maybe we will. But yeah, we should. Right now, we probably need to move on. This podcast has been going on long enough. I do want to go on right now into recommendations. I recommended Walk the Line from 2005, Life and Times of Johnny Cash, and that stars people like Dallas Roberts, Robert Patrick, Joaquin Phoenix, and then the eventual Oscar winner Reese Witherspoon. What did you guys think?
You know, I've seen this before. You know, but what's funny is I saw this before I had watched Walk Hard, which spoofing a lot of this. So it was fun to rewatch it, and then remember all the things that Walk Hard did again to like spoof it,
pulling the sinks out of the wall.
Yeah, and then like with how his brother died for Dewey Cox compared to Johnny Cash and all that. But yeah, it's a good movie. Obviously, I mean, like it's in there with another one of Joaquin Phoenix's. Good. Obviously, Reese Witherspoon won an Oscar for this, and look at that. And it's another great movie in James Mangold's list of great things. He's also the guy who did Ford v Ferrari, which I still haven't seen yet, but I need to. And he did both The Wolverine and Logan, which, I mean, Logan is one of the best superhero movies ever made.
Agreed.
And so like he's done so many great things, and this is just another one of those. It's so well done. I mean, Johnny Cash is such a legend, and like Joaquin Phoenix like does the great task of playing him, and he does a really good job with it. So I was happy to watch this one again.
Yeah, I liked it a lot. I thought though that it definitely did not make Johnny Cash. I was not sympathetic to him whatsoever.
It was hard to be sympathetic. Yeah.
Yeah. I was. A lot of people were being mean, and he was getting like mean to him and reacting how anyone should. And he was like, pissed off that they were angry at him. And I'm like, you kind of did this to yourself, bud. Mm-hmm. So yeah, seeing him, it was interesting to see. More of his story, well, any of his story, because I don't really know much about him in general. But yeah, I thought it was a solid film. Probably not something I'm going to watch again. I thought it was decent. I think Joaquin Phoenix did a really good job. He played somebody that turned out to be as unlikable as I think he was trying to come across. So that was good. And yeah, I think that Reese Witherspoon, Jennifer Goodwin, both of them really great actresses. And Robert Patrick, is that his name?
Oh, yes.
Yeah. I've seen him in a lot of other stuff too, and seeing him be the dick dad is really, really good, because I've seen him be. He's always kind of played the hardened character, but he's always got like a soft heart from what I've seen him in. But to see him here, just straight up, just not a good guy. I'm like, yeah, I can kind of understand why Johnny Cash ended up the way he did, because like growing up like that, it's hard to end up normal. So
yeah, it's like, I'm Johnny Cash. I'm a living legend. You are set for life without ever having to do a thing. Like, what more do I need to do for you to think that I'm a good son?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, when his brother died, he's just like, I lost my only good one. It's like,
ugh.
Wow.
Yeah, there's
why is there a reason why he was like he preferred one son over the other? Like, did he do something wrong?
I don't know. At least in the movie, it doesn't show that he did anything wrong. He just wasn't.
He's just arbitrarily. That's the son I like.
Yeah, very one-dimensional.
Just a very shit. Just the shitty dad trope. You have like a similar thing in Wolfenstein, in the second Wolfenstein, where you like meet your dad, and like the dad is just like the stereotypical piece of shit father, and like there's not like even playing like it was just like this like out of all the characters in the Wolfenstein games, he's probably the worst, because he just is like, yeah, he's just like a piece of shit, like racist old man in the like 1900s, and just because he's like, that's his whole character. It's just like,
well, I'm guessing that his father growing up was actually as bad as the movie as he is in the movie.
Oh yeah, he actually was a piece of shit in real life.
So what Luke is bringing up makes me think like Johnny Cash should have just gone up to him and been like, "Look, Dad, this is a tired trope. Okay, everyone's done it. We've seen the dickhole dads before. Like, just stop. Just do something new. Be nice. Do something new."
With I think Elton John as well. Elton John had a very cold, unfeeling dad.
Elton John should have said the same thing.
He becomes a really, really great father with a completely separate family. It was like, wow, that's just when he had to cross his name out as he was autographing a record, that was really tough. What would you guys rate this?
I would give it a solid 8 out of 10 table sauce.
Johnny?
I would give this a 6.5 out of 10 days without showering on the tour bus.
Oh. That's something that still goes on well, not right now because of the pandemic, because people aren't touring, but that's something that still goes on in modern touring. And it's just like, come on, guys, please just go shower. Just
Please
go shower
bathe.
at your local gas station.
Which you can reserve a shower for that. But that means it is, and I'm going to read this here. Luke's turn again, bitches, in all caps.
Yes, because it's been a while since I've done mine. So I was initially going to do a different one of it. I'm doing an album again for this one. I was going to do a different one, but there's been a song I've listened to a lot this year that came out pretty recently from a band called Holding Absence. So I'm going to recommend, technically it's a double. It's their latest single, and it's their self-titled album. So it's a self-titled album with 11 songs and then one extra track as well. So I'll link a YouTube list to it to you, Johnny, so you have that. But Connor, you can find it on Spotify. The band is called Holding Absence, and then their record is called Holding Absence. So you had to listen to that album from 2019, and then their most recent single, Beyond Belief, which is one of my favorite songs I have heard this year already. So we'll just listen to that album and that single, and then just next week when we meet, just talk about it and let me know what you guys thought about it, and hopefully you guys enjoyed as much as I did, because that's one of that single, and then one of the Bring the Horizon new singles and a Silent Planet song have been probably three of my favorite singles this year. So thought I wouldn't give you any metalcore or anything like that, so I'll give you some nice stuff there. So listen to that, and that is my recommendation for this week.
I am looking forward to it.
Perfect.
Yeah. All right, well, that about wraps up this podcast. I guess we should thank some of the people that helped us make us who we are. So this podcast is sponsored by Anchor, the easiest way to make a podcast. Visit anchor.fm to start your own. This podcast is also sponsored by BuyLightFixtures.com. Visit BuyLightFixtures.com for a trusted source of quality lighting products for your business or home. And also a huge thank you to Tom Taylor, our buddy who made the intro and the outro. He goes by Tailored Beats on SoundCloud, so please go and check him out, soundcloud.com/Tailored Productions. Please follow us on Twitter, like us on Facebook, and all that jazz. And then if you know anyone who's looking for a good source of entertainment news and just wants to nerd out, please share our podcast with them, YouTube or Anchor or Spotify, what have you. My show, Moving in Stereo, is going to happen. I promise you we're going to get more.
Well, I mean, it is a
lot of promising.
It is a busy time of year, and then with you just moving, it makes sense that it's one of those that just needs a little more time in the oven, and that's okay.
Mm-hmm. Well, thank you. I actually really need to hear that. It will be coming to you guys, and we're going to get more of that quality music content to you guys very soon. Also, I had an Xbox Mini with Michael Kripe and Joel Harmer that is up right now. You can go listen to that. Please do, and like, comment, share that. And then a PlayStation 5 Mini.
I'm still planning on trying to get that one done. I'm going to reach out to a few people I know that have the PS5 to join me with that. So be on the lookout for that one as well within the next couple of weeks. Similar thing to the one we had with Michael and Joel, where myself and then another person or two who have the PS5 will go over how we're feeling with the new console and maybe some things we may not fully like as much. Luckily we don't have that issue of the HDMI pass-through like Joel had, so as nice of a feature that was, I'm not missing that in my PS5 like he was with his new Xbox. But yeah, that should be coming too once I get that finalized with who's going to join me and get some questions brought up and recorded. Right on. For the rest of the year, we've got plenty of content coming out for 2020, and we'll get that to you. We're going to have holiday specials for Christmas and for the new year. Also, we will be coming just a little bit after the new year. We will be on our 50th episode, and we're going to have a lot of great guests for you. We'll have some fun games, and please stay tuned for that. Also, yes, I know, it came so quickly. How the year goes really fast and then really slow when the pandemic hits, and then really fast again at the end, but then also really slow because we still can't do shit. All that fun stuff. And then I'll leave it to Luke for this last part. One of our biggest fans might be passing on, and so Luke, I'll let you go into that a little bit. Yeah. So my parents rescued a dog 5 years ago. Actually, it's a fun story that with Johnny. I'll tell in a second. But they took her on a walk they walked a mile plus with her for 211 straight days. So since May, Bella and my parents have gone on a walk. And when they were on the walk on Friday, she's been kind of weird, and she just kind of not really collapsed, but just kind of laid down and just lost all her energy. And so they took her to the doggy ER, and we found out she has an enlarged heart. So unfortunately, she is about to be crossing the Rainbow Bridge because with her condition, it's not like she's not going to be able to live an enjoyable life for the remaining time she has. So unfortunately, she's going to be crossing the Rainbow Bridge the day after this episode is recording, a couple days before this episode posts. So unfortunately, Bella will be leaving. But the fun story with it was my parents got her right after a lot of us moved down to college in August of 2015. And Johnny was going to go back to see his dad, who also lives in the Omaha area. And so he was asking me and Connor and some other Omaha friends, hey guys, you want to go back to Omaha this weekend just for, it'd be like a day so I can hang out with my dad. And we were like, Johnny, we just moved down here from Omaha. No. And then, I remember I told them at probably 2-3 o'clock, no, I'm not going with you. And then my mom texted my brothers and I that they got Bella. And I was like, Johnny, I'm coming with you. So we went back at 11 o'clock that night. And I got to spend all day with Bella before Johnny and I went back to Maryville. And so it was funny that I did that. I came home just to see a dog that my parents got. So yeah, she's been a wonderful little boxer, and it was a very very sad Friday night. I was not the happiest being, but so she is unfortunately gonna be crossing the Rainbow Bridge. She'll be able to hang out with my two previous other dogs, Husker and Jackson. That'll be great, but definitely a sad one. So
I can attest that she is a sweet being. I've met her a few times myself, and she is she's as much of a doggo as doggos can be, and so it's a bummer, but it's good to know that we had I got to meet her a few times, but especially you and your family, you've got to have her while she was here. So
yeah, so definitely keep my family in thoughts and prayers and vibes and whatever you believe, just some sort of positive energy you want to give their way, just because this definitely is hard for my parents. It's hard for me too, obviously, since I am not there. But also wear your mask, because if you would have worn your masks, I would have been able to say goodbye to her in person without having to cancel my Thanksgiving plans. So if you didn't wear your mask for these last few months because COVID is a hoax, I don't like you. So I know that'll turn people off the podcast, but wear your fucking mask, please. Sorry.
Wear your mask, social distance, wash. What the fuck?
Yeah. Remember that it's not political. You're just an asshole. So
pets are family. They really truly are. My wife, we had to put both of her dogs down this year, and it was very, very tough for her. One of them, he was, 13. He was a Shih Tzu. It was time, but then her dog Pippin had a tumor, and it was really, really tough. So it is when you get a pet, you are planning for a heartbreak in the future.
Well, after the bad vibes, we want to end it with some good vibes. So for those of you who have been wearing your masks, staying inside as much as you can, and social distancing, keeping 6 feet apart when you have to go in public, thank you very much. You are our favorite listeners, and you guys all deserve happy lives with puppies. Good on you all.
Yeah, thank you guys for that. So that wraps up this episode. Thank you so much for listening, and please like and share this with everyone that you know. We'll see you next time.